This is a continuation. I don't really know where the last video kind of left you guys. It's been a couple weeks since I've uploaded, and I've been taking just a little bit of a break here on the Delta. But I still wanted to upload a video for you guys, just to keep you guys clued in on what's going on here for me. But as you guys saw in the previous clips that I've uploaded in this video, fishing's been really tough. You know, we've kind of gotten out of that summer bite, and it's now transitioning into more of a fall bite. And what that means on the Delta can be a whole bunch of different things. The shad spawn is just going crazy right now. You guys can see, if you guys go out there, you can see shad just flickering everywhere. Striper are just chasing like crazy. So it's a pretty wide open bite if you're into the striper deal right now. But we've got the FLW coming up this weekend, and I just wanted to give you guys kind of an update on baits that work this summer for me. You know, we all kind of fish the Delta a little bit differently. I've got a lot of friends out here that fish religiously the Delta, and they will all kind of give you their own opinions on what works out here and how they fish it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you my opinion and experience that I have out here on the Delta. For those of you guys that don't know, I live about 30 minutes from the Delta. I could probably get to a launch ramp in 15 if I want to fish the north side. I'm out of Galt, so it's pretty close for me. So I fish the Delta mainly. I do venture out and fish Clear Lake like you guys have seen in some past videos. I do fish Comanche, Berryessa here and there. But Delta is mainly my home water, and I like to stick to it. But I'm going to bring you guys just my experience on the Delta and what baits worked for me this summer. I've got quite a few baits lined up over here that just were, when it comes down to it, the go-to baits that I'll pick up and throw. And those are also the baits that I had the most luck with quantity of fish and as well as quality. And in this lineup, you probably won't see what everybody else is throwing. You know, I fish a little bit differently. I don't like to sit and wait. I'm a big reaction bait, topwater kind of guy. So I'm going to kind of break down those baits for you guys so that you guys can see what I throw. The first bait in this lineup, I'm just going to start with what everybody loves throwing on the Delta, and that's topwater. Summer is a wide open topwater bite. It's hard to beat that explosive reaction that happens whenever you're throwing a frog or wake bait or some type of propeller bait or whatever it is that you throw out here. But the number one bait that I picked out for topwater for me was the Whopper Plopper. I mean, if you guys don't know what this is a Whopper Plopper right here. See if the camera will focus on it. This is a Whopper Plopper. This bait right here has caught me, I don't know, too many fish to count. This is the 110 version, and it's the silent. And I throw it in powder almost religiously. I very rarely pick up a different color. A lot of guys may say throw black, a lot of guys may say throw bluegill, some say throw the Delta Craw, the red version. But this is the go-to topwater bait that I throw. And the reason why I like this bait is it's just super simple and easy to fish. I mean, it's really hard to screw this bait up. You simply throw it out there and it's just a slow retrieve. I do see a lot of guys fish this bait. They do a lot of, you know, jerk and pause, but the most consistent bites that I have gotten are reeling this bait really slowly. There's a certain specific sound that you hear. It's just a small little plop, 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 plop. And that's what I find to get those fish to react to it. The most success that I've had with this bait is thrown around sparse grass. Just putting it in that strike zone where a fish might react or ambush the bait. Had a lot of success with it as well around isolated tules, as well as, you know, big hyacinth clumps, throwing parallel to the hyacinth clumps. But this bait right here is probably my 100% go-to topwater bait for throwing out on the Delta. And I've thrown this bait starting in January, and I'll probably throw it all the way until December. During the summer, the evening bite, you definitely get more strikes and more blow-ups than you do right now, but this bait still catches big fish, and it still catches quantity of fish. I actually went out a couple days ago, and it was a pretty slow bite. I picked this thing up and caught 20-30 fish on it. So this bait right here is my go-to number one topwater bait out here on the Delta. If you guys don't throw it, you're missing out. I'm sure you do. It should be a staple in everyone's tackle box out here on the Delta. So that's number one. Number 2, without fail, right here, the frog. This is a snag-proof poppin' frog. It's just fatty poppin', and I throw it in black. There are a couple times of the year where I picked up a white or I picked up a more natural green color, but this is the one that I always find myself tying on when I'm not getting bit. And this one, obviously, the frog, you guys all know how to throw it, but this bait is really cool. You can work it a couple different ways. As you can see, you know, it's got that big, wide, cupped mouth on it, so you can work it really slow and just give it that pop where it just shoots out a little bit of water, it spits a little bit of water, imitates more of like a bait fish dying on the top. But this right here would definitely be my number 2. And interesting enough this year, frog fishing, I'm not the greatest frog fisherman. I've got a lot of buddies that fish frogs way better than me. People will swear up and down by different baits. You know, a lot of my friends throw the sexy frog, the KVD sexy frog. They swear by it. A lot of guys throw the scum frog and other things like that. But this is the one that I've always found myself going back to. And last year, if you would have asked me about how to throw the frog, I would have given you something completely different. But this year, most of my blow-ups on a frog have come in the thickest cheese that you can think of. And I know that that's hard to find right now on the Delta with all the spraying and all the crap that goes on with that, but this frog outperforms in that cheese. I've caught countless fish just in areas that you'd think are no way a fish could come up and eat in that thick of vegetation. But definitely by far my second favorite topwater lure to throw out here on the Delta. And I typically like to look for current breaks, sparse grass, sparse tules, something that'll give those fish an area just to ambush a bait. And as well, this frog also is the frog that I have my personal best bass out here on the Delta. It's not a giant, it's just over 9 pounds. I'm still searching for that double digit, so if you guys know where that fish is out there, let me know. But this right here, this thing is absolutely 100% has to be tied on your rod and in your boat at all times on the Delta. I've even caught fish. The earliest fish I think I caught on a frog this year was in February. So bass out here will eat it even that early. So that's number 2 in the box. Number 3 for topwater. Didn't do a lot of throwing of this year, but still I wanted to mention it, is this rat bait right here. This is a G-Rat. It's a hardwood custom triple jointed single hook rat bait. And this thing is kind of a love-hate relationship. I have had so many big fish follow this bait, blow up on this bait, and miss this bait. But I just wanted to mention it because I think having a wake bait tied on is probably one of the key things to catching big fish out here on the Delta. I've got a lot of buddies that swear by wake baits, and it's just one of those things that performs in those areas that when you are having that crazy wind day like you guys saw on the windy Wednesday nighters, it's just super windy, and then you come into an area that's protective, it's really slick, calm, no wind, and you throw this bait out here and it will bring the big fish out. But I bought this at the Fisherman's Expo from the guy that was selling these last year, and I've only really thrown it for a couple months now, so I don't have a lot of experience with it, but from what I've seen so far, it gets the big girls to come out. But I figured I'd mention that one. It's fun. It's one of those that, you know, takes some patience to throw because it doesn't have much weight behind it when you throw it out there. It's just a steady retrieve, or you can twitch it like a frog, and it'll walk back and forth. But most of the blowups that I've had on this thing has been just a steady retrieve where it's just swimming back and forth in the water. But this is definitely one of those things that I think that you guys need on the boat to catch in potentially your new PB for sure. That's it for the topwater realm. I do throw a couple other topwater baits that I didn't mention here. I throw a lot of the River to Sea Rover. It's a walking bait, and anytime that the Whopper Plopper really isn't getting the fish to commit and eat it all the way, I tend to go with that walking bait. Next bait on the list, this is probably the bait that I have thrown the most out here on the Delta this year, and that's a punch rig. Currently what I've been throwing, or just my all-around punch rig setup, is 80-pound braid, with an 1.5 ounces, and I throw Woo Tungsten. I really like this Woo Tungsten. I've thrown this bait, I don't know if you can see, I've thrown this bait all summer, and there's not a single nick on that tungsten at all. I mean, it's just lasts. It really does. And this is the color that I've been throwing all year. It's like a bluegill colored punch skirt, 1.5 ounce black tungsten head with a bobber stop and a flipping hook and a bandito bug. I typically throw watermelon red flake, and I'll either throw that on a Missile D bomb or I'll throw black and blue. There was about a 2-month window where I could not get bit on any green pumpkin color. It was when the bluegill spawn was going on. Bluegill were everywhere, and it seemed like you had to throw black and blue to get bit. And I typically only throw skirted punch setups. Now I know a lot of guys, they tend to throw punch setups without skirts as well. I just find myself going back to a skirt. I believe for some reason that it's been getting me the bigger bites. My dad, on the other hand, he likes to throw no skirt. And we've both had success throwing it either way. But that is definitely the #1 bait that I throw out here on the Delta, and I'm still getting punch bites on it. It's September. You know, we got the FLW coming up this weekend, and I'm sure this bait right here is going to be one of those that get the ticket and catch a big fish for you. But also with that bait, this year was a little bit different. Last year there was a lot of grass, there was a lot of pennywort, there was a lot of hyacinth, but as you guys know, they've been spraying a lot out here and killing off a lot of that good grass. But definitely what I found to be a more consistent big fish bite on the punch rig is sparse offshore grass clumps. And I mean grass clumps that are anywhere from 1 strand to like a 2 to 4 foot clump of grass. And it's simple. You pitch in there, you let it hit the bottom, and you give it a couple jigs, and if nothing's there, then you pitch in and throw again. So but that's definitely been my #1 bait out here on the Delta. The next bait on the list is just your standard flip bait. I didn't do a whole lot of flipping this year. I probably should have done more, but when the bite gets tough, it's hard to beat just a standard craw with a tungsten head. And I throw this just on a regular straight shanked flipping hook. And right now I've got a green pumpkin bandito bug tied on by Baits. This bait's been pretty cool. I just recently got this about 2 months ago, I'm sure. Well, sorry about that. The camera cut out as I was in the middle of explaining the next bait on the list. But the next bait on the list was this bandito bug flipping bait. The flip bait obviously is kind of a staple out here on the Delta. I didn't throw it as much as you guys heard, but this bait right here, it's the bandito bug. This one is made by Baits, and as you guys can see, it's kind of been a controversial bait out there. I've only recently started throwing it about a month ago. It's made by Baits. They've been sold out for a really long time, so it took about 2 months for me to get my shipment of these baits in, but so far I really like them. The only downside that I would say to these things is they are very, very soft. That's awesome for hookup ratios, but it's almost like a 1 or 2 fish kind of bait. You're going to catch one, and your tails are going to be ripped off. Your little flanges on the side are going to be ripped off. But that's the next bait that I would recommend throwing out here on the Delta, just a standard flip bait. The next one that I explained before the camera cut off was a bait that I've been throwing out here recently, mainly because just the shad spawn. And this is just your standard 3.5 inch Kitech. I've been throwing it in the IU pattern. That's what I've had the most luck on, and I do throw it on a weighted owner swim bait hook, and that's just simply to keep it in that strike zone just a little bit longer. But there's been a lot of shad out here flickering and popping off, so I've been throwing this bait a lot, and I'll probably continue to throw it a lot. It's been getting me quite a few bites as of recently. This is September, so this is another one of those baits that I think you guys need to have. It's simple. You throw it out there, it's a steady retrieve. Most of my bites come on just the simple, steady, slow retrieve. There are times where I kind of twitch it and pause, and I'll get a couple reaction strikes that way, but definitely the easiest way to fish this bait is just a slow, simple retrieve. And now we can get back to the video because it cut off. So the next bait on the list is going to be your standard square bill. I can't tell you how many times or how many fish I've caught on this bait. If you would have asked me last year, this seems to be like a theme, if you would have asked me last year, I would have told you that this bait is the only bait that you need on your boat. Last year's bite was a little bit different, and I caught so many fish on a square bill out there. This year I actually didn't throw it as much as I probably should have, but the bait that I like to throw is the Fat BDS 4, and this is the silent version in a Delta Craw color. And this bait has been used. You guys can see, you know, it's got hook rash all over it, and this is one that's actually newer for me. I've actually gone through a couple of these, but this color, and I like to throw the River to Sea, the Biggie Papa Bumpin', Biggie Papa Rattlin', and this one I throw in a bluegill color. Sometimes when I just can't get that Delta Craw color to get bit, this color actually performs really well. It actually performed really well, especially when that bluegill spawn was going on and that red color just wasn't getting bit. You guys saw from our last Wednesday nighter TOC video that crankbait is really what did us in. We caught probably 30 or 40 fish on it, and I lost a big one too, but that crankbait is definitely a staple to have. And last but not least, I can't go without saying this bait. And this bait, I believe, is by far the most important bait to have on your boat when fishing the Delta, and that's a chatterbait. This one right here is made by Nick Cloutier. You guys know him out here on the Delta. He's a big stick out here. He's had a lot of great tournament success, and a lot of it has come on this bait right here. And I tend to really only throw one color, and that is simply the green pumpkin. I've actually gone back and forth between two trailers this year. I either throw a craw-like trailer that you guys can see here, or I throw the Z-Man Zako. It's more of like a shad body, and those are the two bodies that I throw. This bait is just versatile in absolutely any area on the Delta. Mainly what I'm looking for when I'm throwing this bait is sparse grass. That's definitely a key out here, is sparse grass, tule points, anywhere where there's an ambush point that a bass might be sitting. But this thing is just absolutely 100% a staple. It's really easy to throw out there, and when I tend to get bit more often is on long casts and really slow retrieves. There have been times where the fish don't want it slow and they want a really quick, 7-to-1 reel, just burning it back to the boat. But typically it's that slow thump, that slow dunk, 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 that gets those fish to bite. But that right there is just the other bait that I've really, really enjoy throwing out here. I typically throw 1/4 ounce. You can go a little bit lighter and throw a 3/8, or you can go heavier and throw a 3/8. But I tend to throw the 1/4 ounce. That's my go-to. I do throw a 1/2 ounce if I'm going up to a lake or something a little bit with deeper water. But out here on the Delta, you're not really fishing too deep. But that's my arsenal. That's kind of what baits worked for me this summer. There's a lot of baits out there that I didn't cover, and a lot of baits that you guys are probably wondering, like, why doesn't he have a drop shot on there? Why doesn't he have a Cinco on there? And to be honest, it's because I hardly throw them. About the only time that I throw a Cinco out here on the Delta is if I miss a topwater fish, and I throw it in there as a follow-up bait to see if I can't snag that fish that just blew up on my topwater rig. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Everyone has their own opinion on what to throw out here on the Delta. I'm just bringing you guys what worked for me this summer. I'm excited to get back out on the water and fish. It's like I said, it's been about a week and a half since I fished out here, and I'm excited to see how that striper bite's going. Maybe we can catch some stripers and show a catch and cook of making some fish tacos. But I just want to thank you guys for watching. You guys are awesome. if you guys want to see anything or have any ideas of what you guys want to see out on the Delta, I know there's a lot of people that actually watch these videos that aren't from the area and watch these videos just to kind of get an idea of what the Delta is like. So if you guys have any ideas on what you want to see, or maybe in more in-depth on each one of these baits and how I throw them and where I throw them, just let me know in the comments down below. But just want to thank you guys. I couldn't do it without you. You guys are awesome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that little bell in case you guys want to get notified when new videos come out. But thank you guys, and guess what? Any cast can be a giant.